What does it mean to be informed? What kind of information is valuable to us? Our infant minds are born into this world. Some say we have no choice in where and how we're born. I've heard others say that we choose to come into this life. I prefer the second. Because if I have not chosen this, it seems that I am a victim of this. I think this is a powerful aspect of the Christ story, is that he is the one who chose to come here. And this is what I mean when I ask the question, what does it mean to be informed? It's very important that we have the right context. Yes? It's very important that we understand what it means to be informed. It's very important that we understand value. We have hundreds, thousands, millions of books, and now we are capable of instantaneously recording every thought that we have and publishing it so that anyone in the world with access to the technology can share our thoughts right now. Yet we still are not quite clear on what the important thoughts are. Can we be informed by silence? Is it possible? Homo sapiens. There is an implication in that name that we have given ourselves, that there is somehow a wisdom about us. We have valued our intellect in many instances very highly. And we seem to be obsessed in some sense with filling every space with our thoughts. We all came here together to work this miracle of love, a miracle of love, a miracle of love. gonna work this miracle of love. We have come to associate wisdom with the thoughts of the Homo sapien. And yet, it seems apparent that in many instances, our thoughts are actually killing us. We have envisioned and thought of a mushroom cloud. We have thought our way to a disrespected and polluted planet. Let's take a look at a word. The word is forgiveness. Even as I speak it, I'm aware of the possibility that that word may seem antiquated. I talk about, say I'm in love, say I'm in love, say I'm in love, say I'm in love with you. Yeah. Whew. If we have not love, we are but a clanging gong, I hear. Nothing against gongs, of course. How does love come today? In what form? I'm in love with you. I'm in love with you. I'm in love with you. I'm in love with you, yeah. Maybe songs can be used to keep us focused. Because if I have a song which sings over and over in my head, I'm in love with you, 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 yeah. And if I could bring that to each member of the community that I meet, understanding that this love presents itself in different ways with different faces, yes? Yes, that would be a good way to live. Friendship is medicine. Friendship is medicine. May we serve. May we surrender. May we be found in the one love from which we all arrive. We all came here together to work this miracle of love. Miracle of love, miracle of love. We're gonna work this miracle love. We're gonna work this miracle, yeah. We're gonna work this miracle. We're gonna work this miracle of love. As creatures of the flesh, we need to be held. We seek our place in community. Not too long ago, in our species' past, we lived together in small communities, hunter-gatherer communities. And so the isolated ways in which we live our lives, even the way in which we have isolated the nuclear family, seems to propagate some kind of deep suffering and even provide a secrecy, a place where abuse takes place. Where the suffering of the parents is magnified in the privacy of the home. What does it mean to be informed? Where do we place our value? What are we teaching our children today? Are we not complicit? Have we not allowed ourselves to become complicit secretly supporting the violence, the destruction, the injustice that we say we oppose? And this does bring me to my original thought of forgiveness. What do we do when we find ourselves even in our passivity to be complicit with the great violence that we've created in this world? We all need to be relevant in some sense, yes? The standard reaction to seeing the violence in this world is to point a finger at the other, to accuse. We spot the dysfunction outside of ourselves, and we oftentimes become righteously indignant. And we are very careful to keep the injustice outside of ourselves. And there's a reason for that. Because the path to self-discovery, true self-discovery, insists that we understand that the injustice is in us, that if we can see it on the outside of us, that it is present in us. And this is why we may begin to use the word we, nosotros. And the we must be bigger than the marital union. The we must be bigger than the ties that we have to our children. The we must be bigger to the ties that we have to our mother and father. The we must keep expanding in our own consciousness, yes? The we must be bigger than our tribe. The we must be bigger than our city, our state. It must be bigger than our nation. Yes, the we must be bigger than our world. This is what it means to have a cosmic consciousness. We begin to see that there is one mind, one creator. We may begin to understand that we chose to be born into this. We may begin to understand ourselves as the one who brings salvation to the world. We may begin to understand ourselves as the one who carries a message of faith and hope and love. And in this context, it is obviously very important that we are informed correctly. There are ancient practices of prayer, contemplative prayer, and meditation that have been passed down to us by those who have become informed, those who have practiced internally and achieved states of deeper consciousness, deeper than normal consciousness, a consciousness that is more broad than the individual who is struggling to survive in this world. You see, this is where our suffering comes from. The story of the individual. The individual who tries to save his own life, or the tribe who is trying to save its own life, yes? It gets quite complicated, as we study science, that as we seek rational explanations for why we are the way we are. There are people who have studied the evolutionary process of humanity who have said that we did not compete one against another as individuals, because this is not how humanity is, but we competed one against another in groups. One group competed against another group. And so, as we look back in time to the genesis of the Homo sapien, we are not trying to romanticize or say that the full answer lies in the past and that we need to return to an absolute hunter-gatherer situation. We're merely seeking some kind of context, a Genesis story, to understand ourselves, yes? And this is what true education is. It is a curiosity, a hunger to understand one's true self. And there is so much to be understood as we seek answers in the material world, in the natural world, yes? As we allow nature to speak to us. This is very important because a communion with God can be established, reestablished, deepened as we commune with nature. But what is nature? Are we not nature? This is one thing that has happened is we separated ourselves from nature. We think that we must go out into the forest. And this is good, going out into the forest, yes, going out into the ocean, going to where what we call nature is. This is all very good, yet are we not nature itself? This very consciousness, this very subjective experience that we seem to be experiencing right now as we listen to these words, as we speak these words, as we commune together right now, are we not witnessing nature? It's one thing that Homo sapiens have done is in our minds we've separated ourselves from nature. And this is one of the great injustices that oftentimes false religion has done for us. Is it's said that we are not the animals, we are separate from the animals. And there is a truth in this, yet it's not the full truth. And this is the thing about truth, and this is the thing that oftentimes religions of all sorts have a difficult time acknowledging, is that truth is true insofar as the truth goes. This is a concept that I first understood through Ken Wilber, the philosopher, mystic, our friend Ken, is that there is nested truth, that any particular truth is true insofar as that truth goes, yet there is always this expansion of truth, this expansion of our understanding of what the truth is, and that the greater truth that we are discovering will always hold that truth that we knew before inside of it. Nested truth, like Russian nesting dolls. Each bigger doll holds the previous doll inside of it, yes? Nested truth. And also, yes, there are depths. Depth does exist, yes? And this brings us back to the concept of value. That deeper or broader or more expansive or the greater truth, the truth that has the most other truths nested inside of it, is the most valuable, yes? And we must acknowledge this depth in order to have a true grasp on the nature of reality. And it is this grasping or this conceptualizing or this understanding of the true nature of reality, which Homo sapiens in many instances have been very concerned about. Yes, it is one of the beautiful things about being human is that we have this tradition, that we have this heritage of seeking the truth. And this is where our science has come from, yes, is we want to discover the true nature of reality. And we ask ourselves these very important questions like, what can we really know? And how do we know it? What is it all made of? Yes? These very basic questions. What is the life well lived? So it is within this greater context that we must begin to reintegrate words like forgiveness, words that have been misunderstood and misused, words like God, words like love. And we must not be afraid of reapproaching these words, even though we have seen them misused in the past, even though we have misused them. There's a great wisdom in this instruction to become still and know God. God is that word. No. God is a word, but there's a word God that we use, right? We understand there's a word God. And that word God is even specific to my particular language, right? There's also a word Jesus, right? And a quick study shows us that there was never really, that guy that we call Jesus probably never went by Jesus when he was here, yet somehow we still say that Jesus' name is the name above all names. And yet Jesus is the one who transcended his own life and became the Christ. There's a cosmic joke in all of this, you see? Because all of our words are so quickly misused. The name of Jesus. Was there a man who went by Yeshua? And in knowing that, do we save ourselves? Do we come in? Yes, possibly that concept may be the door into a deeper truth. I hope I'm being clear here, enough for you to follow me down this path. We allow our words to be deconstructed. We allow even our most sacred names to be deconstructed for the sake of the sacred. Because this is where the sacred nature lies, in allowing what we understand as the truth to be expanded upon, to be nested, to understand it as nested in a greater truth. And if we have locked ourselves down into our understanding of who the Christ is, then we will be unable to understand the true mind of Christ, the true mind of God. we will be unable to truly experience forgiveness. We will possibly be able to say the word forgiveness, yet we will be unable to truly experience forgiveness. And this is what it's like to become informed. When we are clouded, when our thinking is clouded, when our minds are clouded with resentments, with jealousy, with rage, with hurt, all of those words that we may use, and there are many, many words that we can use to describe suffering. But suffering, as I understand, is simply a sense of disconnectedness. Suffering is the sense that I am alone. The suffering that we have all experienced is this sense that I'm an individual. And this is why it's important to understand our Genesis, yes? Because the Genesis may lead all the way back to the singularity. Our Genesis, our search to understand our Genesis, may lead all the way back to the singularity, which may lead us to ask the next logical question, which is, well, where did the singularity come from? What is the origin of the singularity? And we may understand the singularity as that one being who we know as God. God is non-objectifiable, undefinable. Yet that does not mean that we cannot participate in the experience of God while we seem to be in these human Homo sapien bodies. And as we understand, as we become informed correctly, we may know ourselves in this singularity. How, you may ask? How can we even know that this is true, that this is a reality? This is a question that may be phrased in the sense of, how do we know that God is? We know that God is when love becomes us, when we become that which we cannot define, when we choose to direct our attention to that which we know we cannot understand, or to that which we are desperately trying to understand. When our suffering or when our separateness becomes so great that we realize we will either lash out in anger and in pain, or we will surrender to that perfect, pure singularity which we have called God. And then there is a great expanse that opens before us. and we begin to see the light even as we close our eyes. We may see ourselves speaking of the big picture even as the individual is suffering. Yes? We may choose to speak of love. We may choose to open our mouths and speak that which we know to be the most true. We may choose to reach out and to share that which we know to be true instead of lashing out and becoming the accuser. And this is how we know that we are connected, because we understand this to be a miracle. We understand this experience to be deeper than what we could have manifested for ourselves. Yet it is a choice. It is something we have done for ourselves, yes? It is a choice that we have made, yes, but we understand that the fuel, that the power, that this experience is made possible by something much deeper than the individual. That yes, we change our future by making this choice for forgiveness. We change the future of everyone we touch, and possibly the future of the entire world, as we know that singularity in us, as we know that one who is fearless in us. As we begin to place value on that which is eternal, on that which is infinite. And then we begin to understand that all of those projections, we begin to understand that all of those projections of the other who are out there who don't seem to be abiding in this love, we understand that that's suffering. We understand that suffering because we know that suffering in ourselves. And so there is no accusation for the other who cannot see love, who cannot experience love today. And we understand that the only way is to continue to love and forgive, even as those others have seemed to not choose that. We understand that there is depth, and we may know that depth in ourselves, and then we may have deep compassion for others who are not manifesting that depth, because we know what that's like. Forgiveness, it's something like a release. Forgiveness is something like a choice to not surrender our own power. Forgiveness is that which says, you can imprison my physical body, you can You can hang this physical body on a cross. You can put a bullet in the head of this physical body, yet you cannot harm me. I will live forever. I will not fear.